Ladies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the North Wilkesboro Speedway, where tonight we are not only figuring out the 6 drivers that will be moving on into tonight's race, but also determining the starting lineup for the Safelite 400 here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. As always, I'm Elijah Leonard here with you, getting ready to bring the action from here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway, the first trip to this historic facility. And this being our second consecutive short track, I do believe. Yes, indeed. Second consecutive short track. But this one is going to be just a little bit more chaotic. I think just as crazy as what Iowa was last weekend, when we ended up seeing Abby Walker nab her first Pepsi Cup Series victory, and second overall for Walker Family Motorsports. So, and she definitely capitalized on the points perfectly. Got the 75 maximum the maximum 75 points that you can earn in a single race during this this points format. She not only got the traditional 40 points for finishing in first, but also nabbed the 5 bonus points for leading a lap, the 10 bonus points for leading the most laps, and then the 20 bonus points for winning. So Abby Walker, after that, jumped from, I would believe, 27th to inside of the top 10 of the points standings. I mean, that's how big this jump was here for Abby Walker. Let's see if she can keep that momentum up coming in here to North Wilkesboro. Joshua Cornish to the top of the charts with an 18.649. For a little bit there, it was Janiah Hill in this number 7 with an 18.668. And now that just got improved, but not enough to knock Cornish, who formerly was up at the top of the charts, but now it is Ray Atikian with a 634, 2/1000ths of a second faster than Cornish. But now Hill gets back up to second on the board with a 610. And then Joshua Cornish up to the top of the charts with a 560 to his name. You know, last weekend was honestly a pretty impressive one here for McGuire Motorsports. It was the first weekend, the first race that both cars ended up making the field for a WRLA Pepsi Cup Series race. Of course, Bobby McGuire wound up finishing inside of the top 5, and then Janiah Hill didn't really fare too well in the event. Wound up finishing in the lower part of the standings, but of the race standings. But on top of it, however, though, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I just rolled out of bed and my brain's just waking up. But with that said, let's see if they can actually get the momentum, keep that momentum on their side, and try to have 2 McGuire Motorsports cars make a second consecutive Pepsi Cup Series race. So far, it's mission accomplished for one driver, and that being Janiah Hill, who's currently second on the charts, a 547 to her name. Looks like Josiah Munsell here in this 26. He was a little bit higher there on corner exit coming off of turn number 2. You just barely saw it on the left-hand side of your screen that last lap around. Looked like he might have just bounced off the wall here. Either that or he might have had a little bit of a wonkier corner exit, if you will. But Cornish still at the top of the charts with an 18.479 to his name, so a massive improvement there for his lap time. Hill, we touched on a little bit ago. Kyler Sustry, 5/1000ths of a second back from her, currently in third. Ray Atikian in the 4th spot. Ajax Fitzgerald rounds out the top 5, and then it's Nikki Fox who holds on to that final transfer spot, currently tied with Chase McClure, but the millionths of a second is going to make the difference here. even though NR 2003 doesn't really take that into account. Fitzgerald moves up to third with a 551. All these drivers are all in the 18-second brackets as of right now, so we seem to be pretty clean and green as of right now. Rayatikian now holds on to the final transfer spot as Josiah Munsell clocks in at an 18.520. And Bobby McGuire, wait a minute, to the top of the charts with an 18.474. That moves Fitzgerald onto the bubble spot and Rayatikian on the outside looking in. Oh boy. I think Bobby might have heard something there, because when I was saying that let's see if they can keep that momentum on their side and have two McGuire Motorsports cars make the field for the second race in a row, McGuire literally just said, hold my beer, and he just went out there and clocked in a time 5/1000ths of a second quicker than Joshua Cornish. With less than 10 minutes remaining, coming up to 8 minutes to go here in the session on that halfway mark. Jordan Subner making her way back out on the racetrack. She made her first start since Rockingham last weekend at Iowa. Unfortunately, the race didn't quite go her way. It didn't turn out the way that she would have hoped for it to, but her teammate Sebastian Vaughn, kind of a similar scenario. But both drivers wound up going on to finish the race. I wouldn't say the same thing for Jordan Sumner. She more than likely got taken out late in the going. But as for Sebastian Vaughn, I do believe he managed to go on to take the checkered flag and finish the race. But Jordan Sumner tonight, not faring too well here in qualifying, an 18.674. Currently at the very bottom, dead last in the running order here for the top 6 transfer spots to get into tonight's show. Travis Crampton, wait a minute, Crampton up to second with a 18.477. That moves Josiah Munsell onto the bubble spot with Kyler Sustry on the outside looking in. How about this? Even Ryan Gondillo's up here with an 18.487. Very impressive job here from all these other drivers, especially in this little group right here. Some of them are just getting drafts off of one another. Jordan Subner breaks in to the top 6 with an 18.520. Just a few millionths of a second quicker than Josiah Munsell. Now he's on the outside looking in. This is all happening with 6 minutes to go here in this session. Gondillo to second, a few millionths of a second quicker than Travis Crampton with an 18.477. Janiyah Hill just hoping and praying at this rate that she doesn't find herself on the outside looking in. Gondillo clocks in at the top of the board with an 18.471, 3/1000ths of a second faster than Bobby McGuire. If you want a fast time, it's gonna all come from this group right here. Even though we may be at a short track and aerodynamics do not mean too much, apparently the draft is playing a pretty interesting role here in how quick these times get. Oh, Gondillo bounces off the wall there, coming off of turn number 2. 5 minutes remaining here in this session. if you're Jordan Sumner, you're just hoping and praying. You're just absolutely praying to the racing gods above that no one clocks in a time faster than an 18.520, because if that's the case, that means Jordan Sumner would be knocked out and somebody else would take a spot and move on into tonight's show. If you're Janiah Hill, you're just hoping and praying that you don't get put in that bubble spot, because then that just makes things extra nerve-wracking. Extremely nerve-wracking for the final 4 minutes, because at that rate, you're just holding on for dear life at that point, because the next driver that would currently have, I would say, have an opportunity at breaking into that top 6 bracket. Obviously Josiah Munsell is one. Kyler Sustry is another. Martin Nixon, who just broke into the top 10, it could be a potential candidate. But as of right now, not much has really changed up here in this top 6, and not much has really changed below the top 6 from 7th on down. Gardillo still the fastest as of right now with a 471. Then it's Bobby McGuire who would transfer in the second spot with a 474. Then a 477 for Travis Crampton. Then running in 4th, that would be Joshua Cornish with a 479. Janiah Hill with a 513. And Jordan Sumner holding on to the tiebreaker over Josiah Munsell with her 18.520. As Josiah Munsell breaks off, goes to pit road with 3 minutes remaining here in this go or go homer qualifying session here to determine the top 6 drivers that will move on into the main event tonight, and we'll set the starting lineup for the Safelite 400 here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. 2.5 minutes to go. And so far, there's still not a whole lot of time left. See the number 7, Janiah Hill, making her way on down to pit road. Just gonna try to get some fresh tires on her Pokemon Chevy. You can get back out there, try to garner as much time as garner, obviously as much track time as she possibly can here, because if she is able to hold on and make the show, then all these laps are definitely going to be worth it, especially when we get to qualifying here shortly. Kyler Sustry is going to make his way back out on the racetrack. Same will Jordan Sumner. Janiah Hill reassessing some data. Just going over some notes before she heads back out and continues to try to, at least attempts to try to put down a lap that's fast enough to at least get her to breathe a little bit here in order to make the show. We do have a minute to go before they add some extra time. Hill back out on the racetrack. But I'd say, unless if there's anything that just happened. Speaking of, something did just happen, and it's Martin Nixon who breaks in with a 517, knocking Jordan Sumner out of the race. So now Nixon holds on to the final transfer spot out of nowhere. He more than likely got it with about 45 seconds remaining in the session. But my, oh my, Martin Nixon coming out of nowhere with an 18.517. Now at this rate, Jordan Sumner is going to have to put down a Hail Melon lap, if you will, And no, I'm not saying she needs to ride the wall in order to get a good lap time, but she has definitely got to put something down here in order to knock Nixon out of the top 6. It might not be enough. It definitely might not be enough. I'm not sure if times just got finalized there or if there's going to be some added time for these drivers to put down one more good lap. I wasn't 100% paying attention, but your top 6 that will move on into tonight's show here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. It is official. Ryan Gundillo is going to advance on along with Bobby Maguire, Travis Crampton, Joshua Cornish, Janiah Hill, and Martin Nixon. Those 6 drivers will make tonight's show right here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. As for Jordan Sumner, Munsell, Sustry, Fox, McClure, Fitzgerald, Atikian, and DeFeo, those 7 drivers from 7th on down, they will have to gear up for Charlotte next week for the Coca-Cola 600, which will be held on a Friday. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to qualifying here for the WRLA Pepsi Cup Series here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. Stick around, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
If you want to watch a stream, you have to be ad-free because he gives you like 3 in an hour or minute. Please just do what he wants and he will give you the victory royale because he is very good at Fortnite. Not really, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he is really good at Fortnite. Yeah, he is good at Fortnite.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. This time it is for qualifying for the Safelite 400 here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. First driver to hit the racetrack is the man that actually took out Jordan Sumner. Took Jordan Sumner out of the top 6. That is Martin Nixon, who's going to be kicking off our qualifying session here tonight for race number 10 of the WRLA Pepsi Cup Series, the Safelite 400. He's making his first start since, I'm not 100% sure, I think it might be Martinsville. There's last week's winner, Abby Walker, in the number 18. Got some momentum on her side, got her first Pepsi Cup Series win as a driver, but also Walker Family Motorsports' second win as an organization. So I was fact-checked after we went off the air last week at Iowa. So Walker Family Motorsports has 2 wins to their resume as a team. And starting times here are an 18.790 for Martin Nixon. Zachary Fitzwater clocking in at an 8.42. Now, some of you may be wondering why the Coca-Cola 600 is going to be rescheduled earlier in the week to a Friday night instead of being held on its originally scheduled date, which would be the 24th on a Saturday. Part of the reason is for IRL stuff. I'm going to be going and hanging out with some friends, later in the night. So, unfortunately, I will not be able to have the Coke 600 at its normally scheduled time and date. So we are going to be having Coke 600 festivities early on a Friday night. So hopefully you guys are able to come on over to Twitch at 7 p.m. at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Friday on May 23rd for the running of the 11th race of the Pepsi Cup Series, the Coca-Cola 600. Nixon clocking in at an 18:493. That is 100%. That is guaranteed the fastest time we've seen all weekend. And now Zachary Fitzwater clocking in at a 5:72. There's Wyatt Walker in the 19. Unfortunately, didn't see the finish to last week's race at Iowa after pancaking the outside wall very hard. But he did wound up seeing one of his cars go to victory lane this past weekend at Iowa. So, I mean, as a Team Motors perspective, that's definitely a very amazing thing from an owner's perspective. But as much as Wyatt himself would love to go to victory lane, he would also love to see one of his cars go on to win races. I mean, CG Halt did it 2 years ago at Kansas, giving Walker Family Motorsports their first win as an organization. But then Abby Walker just last week gave them their second win. Oh, what in the world? Joshua Cornish must have gotten spun out because he just absolutely came flying into the pits. If you're gonna wreck, at least you're doing it on pit road. That's all I can really say there. But the benefits to this is that even if you do crash, you don't forfeit your starting position. You don't forfeit your starting position, so even if you do go to a backup, you will still start exactly where you are going to, exactly where you're going to be for the race tonight. As for Cornish, when he wrecked, he currently was sitting, let me see, where can I find him? The running order is just moving around constantly, so it's kind of hard to look. He was 41st. So even if he wrecked and went to a backup car, he would still start 41st anyway. Fitzy to the top with an 18.443, with Campbell Marsh and Caleb Rose both tied with 18.471s. Then it's Russell Blaze, currently 5th, also with an 18.471, so it's a three-way tie for third place, but the millionths of a second is what's making the difference. Quentin Moore with a 478, Ryan Little with a 481, Zachary Taylor with a 484, Noah Clifton 485, Martin Nixon still with that 493, and then Reagan Whitlock with a 496, Jerry Rose making up the top 12. Then we move on into the final round later on tonight with a 5:05, holding on by 1/1000th of a second. And not anymore. He just got knocked out of the top 12. Andrew Miller breaks into the top 12 with an 18.465. How about that? And also on top of that, you've got Alexander Rowe breaking in with a 488. So that puts Reagan Whitlock on the bubble spot and Terry Walker on the outside looking in as of right now. Not anymore. Martin Nixon is now on the outside looking in. Nathan Stapleton with an 18.470. breaks into the top 12. So that is all four Ennis Racing cars inside of the top 12 with 3.5 minutes to go here in this session. I want to make sure my mic is on. Okay, we are. Everything is good. That is honestly very impressive that all four Ennis Racing cars, well, that was pretty short-lived. All the times are currently changing up. Travis Crampton with an 18.446 breaks into the top 12. But Noah Clifton, just as soon as I was giving a lot of praise to Ennis Racing for having all four cars inside of the top 12 to contend for the pole in the final round coming up here shortly, everybody just started picking up their times, and they definitely were hammering down on these cars, and because Noah Clifton just got absolutely wiped out of the top 12. He's currently 14th with a 485. He's 2/1000ths of a second out of the top 12. Janiah Hill currently holding on to that final transfer spot for the final round to contend for the pole. And now she's 15th, 16th, as Ryan Little is on the outside looking in. Terry Walker to the top with a 18.441. Stapleton and Fitzy are both tied. And Travis Crampton with a 446. How about Braden Perez coming out of nowhere with an 18.449? Breaking inside of the top 5 here with closing in on 90 seconds remaining. So far, 3 of the 4 Ennis Racing cars are inside of the top 12. And Noah Clifton just edging further and further back in the running order. But he still has a pretty good chance of at least clocking in to the top 12 and kicking somebody out. More than likely Ryan Little, because he is 4/1000ths of a second short of making the final round here for qualifying. See if we can find Noah Clifton here on the racetrack. There he is. He's right behind Russell Blaze and just in front of Sebastian Vaughn. Noah Clifton was looking forward to having himself a good race last week at Iowa, but unfortunately, they didn't quite pan out that way. And now trying to seek redemption here in this event. Rogel Dorn, I do believe, just clocked in at an 18.474. That leaves Quentin Moore on the outside looking in. Or on the bubble spot with Ryan Little on the outside looking in. 10 seconds remaining. Just to see if Clifton could put down one more good lap to get into the show. I don't think he's going to have enough time. I don't think Clifton is going to have enough time to get in to at least put down the lap time. Let's see if it was enough. Wait a minute. It was an 18.462 at the last second, breaks in to the top 12, and that kicks Quentin Moore out. Rogel Dorn holding on to that final transfer spot that's going to get him in. And we now know your top 12 that will fight for the pole here for tonight's Safelite 400 here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. It's Terry Walker, Nathan Stapleton, Zachary Fitzwater, Travis Crampton, Braden Perez, Campbell Marsh, Noah Clifton, Andrew Miller, Wyatt Walker, Caleb Rose, Russell Blaze, and Rogel Dorn. Those 12 will go for the pole for tonight's Safelite 400. As for 13th on down, this is where they're all starting for tonight's race at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. And Abby Walker, last week's winner, from winning the race to starting 42nd here. That's going to be pretty interesting for last week's winner, Abby Walker. But as for everybody else, the top 12, that is, they will all be fighting for the pole here in tonight's race at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. When we come back, it'll be round 2, and that will be our final round of qualifying here tonight. Who will win the pole for the Safelite 400 here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway? Stick around, folks. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
If you want to watch a stream, you have to be ad-free because he gives you like 3 in an hour or minute. Please just do what he wants and he will give you the victory royale because he is very good at Fortnite. Not really, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he is really good at Fortnite. Yeah, he is good at Fortnite. If you want to watch a stream, you have to be ad-free because he gives you like 3 in a hour or minute, please. Just do what he wants and he will give you the victory royale because he is very good at Fortnite. Not really, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he is really good at Fortnite. Yeah, he is good at Fortnite.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, for our final round of WRLA Pepsi Cup Series qualifying from here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. We know our 12 drivers who will fight it out to go for the pole here in tonight's Safelite 400 here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. I'm just waiting and seeing who will be the first one to break off and make their way out onto the racetrack. So far, everybody's still sitting on pit road, waiting to see who will make the first move to try to get out on the racetrack as soon as they possibly can. So far, a minute has already gone by. Everybody's just still sitting on the pits. Now, this is actually kind of interesting. I've never seen them sit on the pits for longer than a minute. And there it is. Andrew Miller, first one to leave his pit stall, but Wyatt Walker's the first one to make it out onto the racetrack since he does have that #1 pit stall here for qualifying. Let's see if he is able to put down a good enough lap in order to win the pole. I mean, any of these drivers can do it, but Wyatt's going to be the one that's going to start us off here. And making his way through turn number 4 this time around. The starting lap is going to be an 18.986. That was his get up to speed lap. Miller clocking in at a 9.76, but at Wyatt's official time across the line, an 18.803. As we progress on in this session, that obviously is gonna change very quickly as all these drivers start to put down their laps. Campbell Marsh currently 5th. Yeah, everybody's starting to put their laps down. Wyatt Walker with an 18.702. Andrew Miller with a 7.11. And the 69 Russell Blaze with an 18.724. And across the stripe, Rogel Dorn clocking in, and well, hasn't clocked in yet, but Russell Blaze at the top with an 18.551, knocking Wyatt off the pole. Rogel Dorn clocked in at an 18,893 as of right now. Campbell Marsh with a 648. Travis Crampton with a 653, just a few millionths of a second quicker than Braden Perez. Terry Walker to the top with an 18,548. This is a driver who last week started up towards the front of the field, ended up getting caught up in a wreck early in the going. He fought and clawed and scratched his way back into contention, only to finish in the second position. Terry Walker, with a lot of confidence built up in this 48 team, trying to go for their first Pepsi Cup Series win and try to give Walker Family Motorsports their third win as an organization altogether. Currently holds on to the top position with a 548. Wyatt just absolutely dethroned him 2/1000ths of a second faster with a 546. I'm not sure what Walker Family Motorsports has been eating for the last few weeks, but they have brought some fast hot rods, but they have just gotten absolutely wiped out of the front row by Russell Blaze and Caleb Rose. A 518 for Blaze and a 542 for Caleb Rose. Blaze, who had been on a pretty impressive qualifying streak earlier in the season, that got broken at Iowa last week, trying to get back on track here. Starting off by winning the pole here for tonight at North Wilkesboro. Blaze has been one of those drivers that has also been very consistent throughout the season. A few poor races, but still proving nothing less than consistent here in this season. With 4.5 minutes to go, he's still holding on to the top of the board. Andrew Miller currently second with a 533. Rogel Dorn fastest by 1/1000th of a second. Currently, he holds on to the pole with a 477. Andrew Miller and Noah Clifton both get kicked back to third and fourth. And if you're wondering where the other two NS Racing cars are on the leaderboard, you can definitely see them right there. A 454 and a 455, or 554 and 555. For both Zachary Fitzwater and Nathan Stapleton, they're 9th and 10th right now. With 3.5 minutes to go in this qualifying session, so far it is looking like an all Durrani Racing front row for the Safelite 400 here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. What's also kind of interesting about this racetrack, and we'll probably touch on it in the race coverage later on tonight, which you can catch at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Twitch later on tonight. Be sure to follow the Twitch if you haven't yet. Link is in the description. But if you look on the back straightaway, these drivers are traveling uphill, then through turns 3 and 4, and the front straightaway, they're going to be going downhill. So this racetrack, I mean, it's very interesting for as a historic racetrack as it is. It does contain some elevation change, if you will, which does, yeah, it does add a little bit of uniqueness to the racetrack. If you really think about it, it adds some uniqueness. Wyatt Walker still holding on to fourth, just a few millionths of a second over Noah Clifton. Both drivers on an 18,541. But this has been a very interesting qualifying session, though, to say the least. 2 minutes remaining. And it looks like Rogel Dorn might win his first pole of his WRLA career if he can hang on If you recall, last year in the NRLA McDonald's Cup Series, he wound up winning at the Kansas Speedway, getting his first win over there in that series. But here we are in WRLA competition. The season's kind of playing out a little bit similar to how it was last year in the NRLA McDonald's Cup Series for Rogel Dorn. You got off to a very slow start, but once May came around, Rogel Dorn came into his own, and he was popping off top 5s and top 10s left and right after getting a win under his belt. So we could see a little bit of deja vu here this year for Rogel Dorn, but in WRLA equipment. So that is going to be very interesting. And also next weekend, we've got the Indiana Bash at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to contribute to Indy 250 weekend. That's also coming up here very quickly. That's going to be a barn burner of a race, if I may say. Hopefully you guys are able to tune into the Indianapolis 250 over on AG's channel. That's going to be a fun one. As always, a very historic race on top of that. I'm always one of those people that looks forward to it. And hopefully you guys are also looking forward to the WRLA Pepsi Cup Series Coca-Cola 600 next Friday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's also going to be a fun one. Just lots and lots of racing to round out the month of May. And then we got Pocono next week, the following weekend on May 31st. But times are finalized. Rogel Dorn and Russell Blaze will lead the field to the green flag here in tonight's Safelite 400. Here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway, Andrew Miller and Wyatt Walker will make up row number 2. Noah Clifton and Caleb Rose will make up the third row. Then in row number 4, we'll see Terry Walker and Travis Crampton, Nathan Stapleton, and Zachary Fitzwater in row number 5. And Braden Perez, Campbell Marsh will make up the 6th row. But that is your starting lineup. Full on completed here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. You know, last week we had Walker Family Motorsports sweep the front row, and a Walker Family Motorsports car went on to win the race. We could see a little bit of deja vu here for this weekend with Durrani Racing sweeping the front row and a Durrani Racing car going to victory lane. It could happen with Russell Blaze. If you remember, Abby Walker started second in the event and then later went on to win. We could see that with Russell Blaze here later on tonight. But it's going to be a very interesting one here later on at 7 p.m. Eastern Time over on Twitch. 200 laps to distance here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. Want to thank you guys a lot for watching qualifying here on YouTube. If you guys like this, be sure to hit the like button. And if you haven't considered subscribing yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button in order to keep up with some fine content coming out in the near future. One more time, congratulations to Rogel Dorn and Russell Blaze for sweeping the front row here at North Wilkesboro. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Take care. And we will see you all at 7 p.m. Eastern Time over on Twitch for the Safelite 400 here at North Wilkesboro. Have a good one, y'all.